From the John DeVito Broadcast Center, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Armchair Experts with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network and Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM Norwich on Wednesday, November the 2nd, the year 2016. And now, here they are, the day after Halloween, Jim and Rich.
Some people might say, take your costumes off, boys. You look grumpy this morning.
Some people might say, what, Jim?
Take your costumes off, boys.
Hey, there you go.
I looking at you, I was going to say you're a little grumpy.
After last night, and I don't know why, I usually sleep with no problem and get up with no problem. I think I might be going on 3 or 4 hours of sleep.
That, you know what? That was my problem last night too.
I don't know why.
I couldn't fall asleep, and I woke up about 3 o'clock this morning and sat up for about an hour. And
yeah, I don't know.
And then I go back to sleep, and then when I finally get settled and go back to sleep, then I'm get up too late, and I rushed around, which was why I got here when I did.
Jim, you know what? Maybe what was on my mind is what I was going to talk to you about here. Remember? Well, obviously you remember. I texted you during Game 5 that when Madden made the multiple moves, he pinch hit for Montero for Ross, and then
right,
and then it sort of made sense after I saw it was a double switch, and he had a Montero bat. But my comment to you was I think he's trying to overmanage us into losing the game or something along those lines.
Right.
And you had just said something similar to Dana.
Yeah. Yeah.
But and then of course hindsight is 50-50. Thank God though Joe Madden was managing
2020 hindsight.
2020.
If you had 50-50.
Joe Madden was managing instead of me. But I thought to myself, I used to criticize Lovie Smith because in the Super Bowl, the 1 year, we had signed Brian Griese.
Right.
Okay, and I remember in that Super Bowl, because Grossman had reverted back to his old form of fumbling the ball and this and that, couldn't hold on to the ball. So I'm thinking, why are we not putting Griese in? Because this ostensibly is what he was signed to do, to be the veteran backup and come on in case the young guy couldn't handle it. And that never happened. And I criticized Lovie, and I think rightfully so. And when I thought about my remarks to you, or our remarks back and forth to each other last Sunday night, I thought, no, you know what? Madden did the right thing. You got this guy. He's the horse you said was the missing piece. And if you don't use him now, when everything's on the line, when the heck are you going to use him?
Yeah. Yeah, and I thought about that, and gosh, what was it, a year ago when the Giants used Bumgarner for 15 outs?
Yeah, right.
You used a starter.
Yeah.
For 5 innings.
Yeah. And you know what? I think at the time you and I were talking, we were actually, I think I was on John Smoltz because I had heard Smoltz on the radio a day or two prior to that last game saying, no, Bumgarner, there's no way he can pitch. He's already, the modern day sort of mantra of too many pitches.
Yeah.
And I think we had said, I don't know if it was on the air or not, but we had said, hey, it's the 7th game of the World Series. You can win the World Series. Not so much the heck with Bumgarner and his arm, but if Bumgarner thinks he can go, then go.
Hey, you've already got Lester saying, if you need me in Game 6 or Game 7, I'll go.
Yeah, well, for sure. I would say these last couple of nights here that other than, Arrieta, who, let's say that we win tonight, I don't know that Arrieta would be ready, depending on what he does tonight. I don't know that he'd be ready to do anything the next night. But I would say, other than Arrieta, if we go to a Game 7, all hands are on board.
All hands on deck in Game 7.
Yeah.
You better believe it. I guess I looked at it. I was sitting there thinking Sunday night, and I was trying to think logically, which is probably my mistake right off the bat, thinking, wow, when he made that change, why didn't he go to Strop first or Rondon?
Mm-hmm.
And then when I realized, just like you did, that when I took a look at my Yahoo box score and realized what the switch was, then it made sense.
Sure.
I didn't. I was a little bit concerned what he was going to do. When
it's time to in the order. I knew that was going to happen.
Yeah. I knew that it had to happen.
Yeah.
And I had a good laugh because I was looking at Twitter and Facebook and watching comments made, and Tommy Williams, who used to be on the Score and now I think covers a lot of prep sports in Northwest Indiana for the Hammond Times or one of those over there, and I think does some things on North Lake County Public Television and radio over there. He said he posted, "Bet you didn't know that Aroldis Chapman hit left-handed." And I responded back. Bet you he didn't know it either.
Did you see him in the dugout, Jim? He was like, they're like, Aroldis, the on-deck circle's over there, because he's sort of in the dugout. Whoever preceded him was already up there and had gotten into the at-bat a little bit, and he still, I don't think, was out in the on-deck circle yet.
Yeah. But I thought that was bet you didn't know he hit left-handed. Bet you he didn't either.
I have to ask you this.
Hey, he looked like a batter up there.
No, he swung the bat well. I think the reality is he's a good athlete, and he comported himself up there really well. So
that's right.
I was going to say, I think not me so much, maybe a little bit, but I think there's people who maybe the jury was still out on Aroldis Chapman. A force of nature for sure, but maybe not because there had been some talk about him not wanting to go just more than the one inning, and I think some people construed that as him maybe not wanting to be a team guy. I think he earned his spurs in that respect the other night.
Yeah, and I think from the post-game press conference, listening to Joe, he said the idea that he had was to use Edwards as a bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And he did already talk to Chapman. He said, you may need to go 8 outs. And he said he was fine with it.
Yeah.
I think there's that mentality with, and I wondered how he managed to keep himself psyched and into it, because there's that mentality for a closer. Well, you just come in, you pitch your one inning, thank you very much, good night, everybody. And he had to keep himself loose and keep himself into the game, and
Jim, I'm just wondering if I'm not saying that this was intentional, that we knew that we were going to drop that far behind in the series, but now that we're going back to Cleveland, I'm thinking that the effect of the whole thing might almost be like the rope-a-dope type of effect, because they're going to see all of our, other than Lackey, they're going to see our starters twice.
Right.
If we get to a Game 7,
you're going to see Kluber
you'll see Kluber for the third time, and
I
would hope that they would have some kind of a clue on how to approach him in that game.
If you see him a third time and can't hit him, then
hey, hats off to them. He's done a great job.
Hats off to them, and that's the reason you lost.
Now, do you remember, Jim? I'm trying to think. Of course, Bumgarner came in as a reliever a few years ago for the Giants, but I'm trying to think of in the World Series that I could remember. Did Mickey Lolich pitch 3 games in the 60? What would that have been, about 67, 68? World Series?
Lolich won 3. Gibson
did Burdette win 3 in the 50? What would that be? 57.
Burdette won 3. Gibson, I think, won 3.
I'm not sure about that one.
I think Gibson won 3 games in a series.
I guess the point is, it's not unheard of for a pitcher to go out there and just be fantastic and win 3.
It's not unheard of. It's just, in this day and age, the way the game is played, it just doesn't happen. Everybody's got their slots. But you come to this point in time in the year, there is no slots. The book has to be gone.
Now, do you think that there's a possibility that I was surprised that Francona basically countered with Allen coming in the seventh as to sort of counter. Were you surprised about that?
A little bit, a little bit.
I think that really is it's a sign of respect. I think for the Cubs, because I think Francona is saying, which is the logical thing. I don't know if everybody thinks this way, but hey, let's cancel. If we can cancel these guys out now, let's get them.
If we can equalize it and get them now. Francona manages like a National League manager. Most of the time.
Yeah.
And
I'll tell you, really, there's something that when I see Terry Francona, I'm not like, I don't know, there's, I don't have this reaction to many people. I just don't like his looks or whatever. but you know what? I'll tell you, I mean, you cannot, this is a very good matchup managerially.
It is. It's excellent.
So Franco, and I think I'll say this. I think I've said this through the season when the Indians don't come up on this show that often, obviously, but I think we've mentioned them a time or two. And Francona to me has done an excellent job because when I look at their team, take guys like say Rajay Davis or Coco Crisp.
Happy birthday, Coco Crisp.
Is it Coco Crisp's birthday?
What is
I
his,
mean, those guys they're good players, but I think both of them are a little past their primes. He's getting a lot out of those guys.
Coco Crisp is 37 today.
Okay. Mike Napoli, I think, is a guy who can produce for you, but he's been a guy who's had several positions in his career, and I'm not saying he's a bad player, but he's not. I don't know. He's not he's not a star by any stretch.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think he's done a really good job with the talent that he has.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say this: the nice thing about these series, you see this. You've seen this with the Hawks in the past, where you don't see these teams that much, but now you get to see a team for 5, 6, 7 games. The Bulls in years where they won the championship, the same thing, and you get to appreciate the other team a little bit. And they you know what?
Yeah.
The team that I said stunk they're a nice team. They got a nice team.
They're a good ball club. By the way, bonus points if you can tell me what Coco Crisp's real first name is.
I always thought it was Coco.
Nope. Well, he did legally change it.
Oh, he did. Well,
what
was it?
Covelli.
Oh, Covelli. Why, that's interesting. I wonder why that was his original name.
I don't know, but
there's got to be a story behind that.
There is a story. I think his siblings said he looked like a character in the some comic or something, Coco Crisp, or looked like something in the cereal.
Well, let me ask you this, Jim,
the cereal box.
Are the Indians pitchers always this good, or are they on a hot roll like we saw the Mets pitchers last fall?
You got yourself from the things I've heard from the All-Star break on. You've had some really, really good pitching.
Yeah.
You've had some really good pitching. I mean, Kluber is a starter. I mean, the ERA, this is again, a Cy Young Award winner. ERA was in the low 3s.
Mm-hmm.
Gee, and Jake, defending Cy Young Award winner, ERA is in the low 3s.
Yeah, yeah.
You've got to probably the key was the trade with the Yankees in getting Miller.
Yeah. Oh, that was huge.
That's your
because
Miller
is such a versatile guy.
Yeah.
As far as the way they use pitchers today.
Yeah.
Although I still the interesting thing, and you think it would go to the Cubs' advantage, and it hasn't really to this point, is they only have 2 left-handed pitchers on their roster, and the only one they really use much is Miller.
Mm-hmm.
The other guy is Merritt, who they were forced to use in the American League Championship Series with Toronto. He started a game.
Mm-hmm.
But I doubt if it would be a surprise, I'd say, if you see him other than if they might have to use him some way in relief,
Mhm.
you won't see him. But I think the thing I think I said this before. I don't want to see the Cubs have to turn Fowler and Zobrist around to the right side. I don't think they're as effective. Same as Carlos Sanchez. I mean, you rather see him on the other side of the table. You rather see him hit from the left side than the right side.
Mhm.
Just a lot better, more
Just-
productive hitter.
Just a more productive hitter.
But I'll tell you what, I like the fact that Jake Arrieta is going to go tonight, because I think Jake, not that he's been disrespected this year, but he's sort of been pushed to the background a little bit.
He's been pushed to the background because certainly for the second half of the season, he's been so inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
The first half of the year, he looked like, most of the time, he looked like the Arrieta from last season.
Yeah.
And I think, you had to reach a point at sometime during this second half of the year, we had to wonder, is he hurt? But
I don't think he's hurt. I just think it's an unreasonable expectation that he should be able to pitch the way he did for. I'll tell you, he was so on for so long. But I think he's even said, I think I've read in the paper, either him or Joe Madden, but I think it was Jake. He said, "Listen, basically, what's really happened is the mindset that I had is sort of." It's not what it was, the focus or whatever he had. And you know what? To me, just knowing personally, I mean, say if you're in a groove for 2 or 3 days, just life-wise, it doesn't last.
No.
For some reason, something breaks that whole routine up.
You lose your rhythm somewhere along the way. Something.
Yeah, I mean, you're feeling good, everything was good, and then something breaks it. That's all.
Yeah, your focus gets messed up.
Yeah, I think it's just a human thing, and the fact that he was able to be locked in as long as he was phenomenal. I don't think he's ever going to see that again. We're not going to see it out of him again.
That's amazing when you think about it, and I mean, you look at him this year. There sure wasn't anything wrong with 18-8.
No, I mean he was. Let's face it,
earned an average of 3.1.
If he hadn't had the year that he had prior, say replace last year with this year. So say this year's Arrieta, put him last year.
Yeah,
and you'd be saying, "Oh man, this guy, he's fantastic."
Yeah.
What's really bad for Arrieta, though, is after everybody saw him like that last year, and now, he's a very good pitcher, but he's more human this year. I wonder if he's actually going to get that big money laid on him after everything is analyzed.
Yeah, that's a good question. And well, of course, I have a pretty strong hunch that if they try to work an extension with him in the off season, he's going to say no, and he's going to try to pitch himself for a big contract next year. So it'll be the big question. The big question in 2017, which Jake Arrieta is out there.
Well,
How many
the good
times?
thing is Jake Arrieta is going to. Obviously, he's going to be on the market, so he'll be selling himself, and you'll see the best Arrieta you can get.
We'll get the advantage of it next season. We'll get the advantage of it.
I'm curious now. I've heard some rumors that the Cubs are interested in signing Kenley Jansen.
Yeah.
But my question would be, if you're going to lay big bucks on Jansen, but you already have Chapman, why not lay the big bucks on Chapman? I like Jansen better, but
Chapman, I mean, he goes in. I think he goes into his free agency.
Mm-hmm.
So you can see what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
Make the qualifying offer or work out a contract and see what happens.
Well, there's a guy who, I don't know what the market's going to be, but there's a guy who was going to get a big contract anyway, But he might have just upped the ante last Sunday night even more.
Oh, unbelievable.
With that, because now everybody's saying, "Hey, this guy, guess what? He can go 2-3 innings." I mean, and you're not going to do that with him all the time. But if you have to, he can do it.
You're not going to do that during the season.
No,
I think a couple of times while he was here, he's probably had some 5-out saves or 4-out saves.
I didn't keep track.
I didn't keep track of it, but I think he had a couple of times where he came in the 8th, late in the 8th, and maybe had a 4-out save or a 5-out save. But to have to go 8 outs.
Now, I was listening to somebody talk yesterday, and they seemed to. I was talking to. I ran into Jim Matthews, so we sat down. We talked for about half an hour, and of course, the game came up. And he expressed, I said, boy, when Chapman gets that high heat and these guys go after it, they're not going to catch up to it. And he said, well, when they swing hard, they're not going to catch up to it. But if they take a little off their swing, then they may. And I said, you're right, Jim. You're right about that. But the thing he expressed a concern about, especially with the runner on third, he was worried about a wild pitch. And I'm thinking, Chapman, I'll tell you what, I've never come close to throwing anything over 100 miles an hour. But I'm thinking,
if I could get 50,
he's
I'd
got
be happy.
pretty good control, though, considering how hard he throws.
Yeah, but you know what? Cold night, things can happen.
Yeah, that's true.
Things can get away from you.
Yeah.
You have a very, I think the fortunate thing is you have a very athletic catcher, because if you bring Contreras in, or if Contreras is catching, he's bouncing all over the place.
Yeah, well, the one ball, and I don't think there was anybody on base at the time, but he made an unbelievable pickup on a ball that just, Chapman threw it as hard as he could, and it bounced. And as a guy who caught a lot, the ball that sort of takes the short hop, you can block. And you
get your body in front of it.
But that was a longer hop, and that is a way more. Because now you're not going to really get your body in front of it, so it's all your glove, and just a fantastic play by Contreras.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I guess the one I look at, and defensively, he's been a gem this year. Certainly this series, but boy, Javi Baez is so screwed up there.
He's, I think Javi is in one of those things, Jim, where not that it went to his head in a bad way, but I think maybe the worst thing that could have happened was that he was the co-MVP for the NLCS.
Yeah.
Because I think he's trying to overdo.
Yeah.
Instead of just doing what he's been doing all along, all of a sudden you're seeing him revert back to swinging at a lot of bad pitches. I swear that last strike on Sunday night, when they showed the replay, I said that ball was just about bouncing on the dirt along the over the plate. I said that was really
that was it.
And there, he just needs to gather himself and go back to doing what he was doing. The same thing with Addison Russell. What these guys have started to revert to, Jim, and it's not going to work, especially when they're facing the righties like Allen or Kluber or Shaw, who have wicked breaking balls. You're not going to pull that and have any success. Contreras, I'd throw in there as well. You got to go with the pitch if you're going to have any success with these guys, because you're not going to, even if you put a bat on that pitch, it's not going anywhere.
Yeah. And I thought watching Sunday night when Baez dropped that bunt down, I thought, oh my God, this is the smartest thing I've seen him do this series. Mm-hmm. As maybe that was the one thing. Okay, I'll drop a bunt, I'll get on base, I'll do something. But then came up the next time and back to the old. You take a pitch in the zone, and then he takes a pitch into the zone, gets down in the hole, and then they start throwing garbage.
Yeah,
outside, low.
Sure,
and
they know you're going to be fishing,
and he's fishing for it.
Yeah,
and he's fishing for it.
I'll tell you one thing. The other night, I think it was game 4, which Lester pitched. We lost. No, we won.
Game
so
4.
it was game 4. It was game 5.
Game 5 we won.
Ross threw out, I think it was Lindor. And I'm thinking, man, what a throw by Rossi. Then I looked at the tag Baez made. And I'll tell you one thing about Javier Baez. I have never seen anybody ever with the ability to make the tags that he does.
I know.
And none of them is the same.
No.
So he reads what needs to be done and gets himself in position to do it. He is phenomenal. I've never seen anything like that in my life.
I know. The instincts he has out there amaze me.
Mm-hmm.
And
no, you could take any of your great fielders. I don't care what position. I've never seen that. Is uncanny what he does. There's nobody today that can do what he does. There's nobody I've seen in the past who can do what he does in terms of. I've never seen that in my life. Just the way he's able. I mean, Rossi's throw was good, and he had to be quick. But I thought, yeah, the throw was good because Lindor had a good jump. I mean, off of Lester, you're going to get a good jump.
Yeah, easily.
And the throw was good. I mean, he had to hurry it. But I'm thinking that throw's not going to get him without Baez's tag.
No.
Baez's tag made the play.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and when you looked at when he put the tag on him and how far Lindor was away from the base.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was just...
Well, that's sort of like when a DB jumps a route, I should say.
I thought you were Canadian suddenly.
What...
route?
Yeah, what Baez saw was, what he saw he needed to do was get a jump. If he would have waited at the base for that ball, that play doesn't happen. But the fact that he went after the ball, I mean, then the play became not even close. I mean, he was out by a good, I don't know how much he was out by, but the play was not like a close play after. But that was all on Baez.
That was all on Baez. I don't think it. It's hard to tell on the TV, but 6 inches, 8 inches away from the bag.
Yeah, I mean it was. That's a good analysis. 6 or 8 inches is a long way from the bag.
That's a long way.
Yeah, I mean you're thrown out by a lot if you get thrown out by that much.
Yeah. There's something else I was thinking of, but I'll look at it maybe when we start talking football.
Well, I was ready to jump out of my seat when Hayward hit that long shot that was foul, and I'm thinking that place to see Hayward. If Hayward would have, that would have been fair. That place would have gone totally bonkers.
That place would have gone berserk. I mean, the catch that he made.
Yeah, that was something.
Hanging from the wall.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Jim Kelly keeps saying, why do they keep having Hayward in the lineup? And I'm thinking...
You saw the reasons Sunday night.
Well, I mean, let's put it this way. The other thing is, I don't know that you're going to get that much more out of anybody else you would replace him with, and you're certainly not going to get what he brings defensively.
Yeah.
So... if you're strictly looking at a batting average or on-base percentage, Hayward is not doing it, but he certainly is still bringing it with the glove. And, from everything you hear, just a good guy to have on the team.
Just a good guy to have around, and any meatball who gets out there and gets on him.
Yeah. No,
we're paying $180 million, and he's for a .230 hitter?
Yeah.
You know what? I mean, he suffered for it. He lost his starting job, but when he comes in, he produces.
Well, I still say that at some point in time, you're gonna hear that he played with some kind of injury. I know that his wrist was a problem.
His wrist wasn't there a rib problem too earlier in the year?
There might have been.
Yeah,
I have to think that there's something still wrong because it's not like he's there was one game where he did strike out 3 times during the series, but he's basically put the bat on the ball, but it goes nowhere. It's like he's hitting with a newspaper.
Yeah.
And I'd say this: so your eye is still there. You're still able to make contact with the ball. The ball's going nowhere. It's got to be sort of a physical problem.
Yeah,
because there's times when it looks like he's squared up and hit the ball, right on the fat part of the bat, and it goes nowhere.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was really the case or if I was imagining it, but he seemed to be swinging a little bit differently last night or the other night. The bat, I don't know if he backed off a little bit more, but there was a little more extension.
Yeah, that's a good. I think you're right about that, Jim. I didn't notice it at the time, but now that I'm thinking about what you're saying, that could be what happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
He may have backed off a bit and was able to extend his arms a little better.
Yeah. John's nodding. That must mean we have to do something.
Yeah.
So let's do it.
You are listening to Armchair Experts from the John DeVito Broadcast Center on Jack FM 89.7, WRHS FM Norwich, and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network on Wednesday, November the 2nd, the year 2016, with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro. And this is Jack FM 89.7, WRHS FM Norwich, Illinois. And now back to Jim and Rich.
I had to laugh. I was looking at different news feeds. I don't know whose it was, but talking about the fact that the Cubs took a late flight to Cleveland, so ball players could spend the day with their kids and go trick or treating and enjoy Halloween. Mm-hmm. Actually, a couple of the pictures were cute.
Yeah.
Lackey's family. Mm-hmm. He was the big bad wolf. His little girl was Little Bo Peep, and his little baby was a sheep, and his oldest boy was Chris Bryant. But I'm looking, and some meatball.
Oh, no, don't tell me. What are criticize this?
What are they doing? They should be in there early and taking batting practice.
I was really happy to see that Madden encouraged this, and that he said, wear costumes and whatnot, because I think at this point in time, somebody who says that, I don't think has any clue. I mean, the pressure is already tremendous.
Yeah.
And you know what? You just need to relax. When you can relax, you need to relax. The pressure is going to be there once you step between the lines on tonight. So any other time that you can relax, and you know what? Here's the other thing. They're going to take batting practice if that's what Joe wants them to do. But does the same person realize that through the season it's been Madden's practice to a lot of times not have them hit?
Yeah.
Because I understand that. I think you have to practice. There's no question. But I think there is also times, and I think he's on the right track. There's also times, especially if you're not going good, when you don't need to practice.
Right.
Because now that is getting in. It's getting in your head.
It gets in your head.
Yeah.
Sunday reporting time was 5:30.
Okay.
Although he did say there'll be batting practice if you want to come in at 3. He says there's batting practice at 3 o'clock if you want to come in.
Yeah, that's good.
But reporting time is 5:30.
Right. That's good.
And but when I saw that, what are they doing out there with their kids? They should be They should leave early and get ready for the ball game.
Yeah,
well,
that's a good way to increase the tension.
Increase the tension. there's enough tension. Did you see over the weekend that, or the other night, that after one game, when they got back to the hotel, Terry Francona was so wound up. He says at 3 o'clock in the morning he ordered $44 worth of ice cream from room service.
Oh, jeez.
That may have been one carton for I don't know where they were staying, but
did you hear the story? I was in the car and Pat Hughes was telling it. Well, of course, they referenced the fact that Terry Francona was a Cub for I think a year.
Yeah, 88, I think, somewhere around there.
And then Pat Hughes said Francona had been with the Brewers while he was up there as a broadcaster, and he said he saw something. Terry Francona was involved in an incident that he's never seen before or since. And he said there was something happened on the field where he had a little bit of a go around with the plate umpire. So when he got up, the situation called for an intentional pass, so he was the guy going to be walked. He said 2 pitches into the intentional pass, Francona was thrown out of the game. He said... So obviously, Francona continued whatever the beef he had with this umpire, and in the middle of the intentional walk, he was tossed. Oh man!
Speaking of home plate umpires, the only thing that concerns me tonight is Joe West is behind the plate.
Well, I don't know about Joe West, but I would say this: the umpiring has been. I don't know. I'm not saying it's terrible, but sometimes it's not been as consistent as you.
That's about the best way. That's really what I was going to use. There's been some inconsistency.
Yeah.
On the strike zone.
Yeah.
And what bothers me about the fact that West is the home plate umpire tonight, Joe West always seems to try to find a way to insert himself.
Well, that's not good umpire.
That's not good umpiring.
Behavior, I would say.
No.
What aggravates me, guys, is they put the little box up, and everybody says the pitch was in the box, it was out of the box, it was. They should take that box down because that box, it shows you basically where the ball ends up, but it doesn't show you where the ball crosses the plate, which is the key thing. And it's not showing you that unless the pitch maybe is straight down the middle and it's in the box. But a ball that's like it starts out.
It's being viewed from the pitcher's perspective, where it's hard to judge it.
Yeah.
What's interesting, and as I followed it, especially during the earlier series. As they had the radio on, and I didn't have MLB or Fox, so I couldn't watch the game on Fox Sports 1. I couldn't watch the game on TV, but I was following it on MLB on Google. So you see it from the batter's perspective, the way they show it, the way they show it on Google, and you see the outline of the pitches coming into the box. They have the box set up on there. It gives you a little bit better idea, a little bit better look.
Yeah. And this is from the batter's perspective?
It's from the batter's perspective then.
Yeah. Although the batter doesn't have a great look at the batter might have the worst perspective of what's actually a ball or a strike.
It's actually behind the batter. The perspective, but you see the ball coming towards the batter.
As a fan, you watch the pitches, and there's ones you don't like and others that you do like. But and I'm not a league ball umpire, but I umpire 16-inch softball. But what the comparison I'm going to make has nothing to do with the mechanics of the balls and strikes, if that's a proper way to put it. But the thing is, I think what people don't realize is the umpire sees every pitch that comes, and he's now sort of judging. Okay, this how I don't know how to put it. I'll revert back to in 16-inch softball, the batter might say, "Well, that was a little deep."
Mm-hmm.
Well, no, it's not a little deep. And well, you know what? You called it, or they'll say you called it like that for the last guy, and I didn't get the same call. Well, no, you're not. I guess the point is, you're not seeing every pitch. You're up there for your at bat, but the umpire is judging every pitch. So he's sort of, what would you say? I'm not finding a word here. He's sort of taking a composite, if you will, and that's how he's looking at every pitch. I'm not able to explain this that well, but you're well, I'll get off the subject. But put it this way: when you're the guy who sees every pitch, you are obviously not seeing it the same way as anybody else on the field. No. You're calling every pitch.
No,
So there's some give and take there.
You're focused on one area.
Yes. Yeah. And what may seem inconsistent to me as a viewer, or the guy up at home plate as a batter, or the pitcher on the mound, doesn't seem that way to the umpire, because he's taking and judging every pitch. And again, I'm not coming up with a good way to describe it, but again, I'll say in 16-inch softball, you might see a pitch, Jim, and I'm holding my hands 6 inches apart, that falls that far behind the plate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the next pitch might actually fall 4 inches behind the plate, and the batter will be saying, "Well, the last one was a ball. How come that one's a strike?" He says, "That was just as deep as the other one." Well, no, it's not, because I'm looking at it from my perspective, and I'm going to tell you right now, the one ball fell here, the other ball fell 2 inches shorter than that one. And I think that's what the umpires are dealing with. That one looked like it was right on the corner. The next one was an inch or two off the corner. The umpire basically has the best perspective on that, because he's seeing every pitch. Maybe that's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
So we as fans, we're looking at the pitches, say, "Oh shoot, that one was the same as the other one."
Yeah.
Well, no, it wasn't. That's what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, it'll be an interesting night. Yes, Mr. DeVetta.
I'm going to ask one question.
Okay, and the answer is 23.
The announcer for Fox.
Let's not go into Joe Buck here. No, let's not get into Joe Buck.
Well, you like him?
I don't care one way or the other for him.
Me neither.
I don't care one way. I have no opinion of Joe Buck. Joe Buck has done, I don't know, what do you say, 19 World Series. Every team's fans have hated him. But he's a national announcer and has to keep it from a national perspective. Mm-hmm. And you look for the story. I would say if it bothers you, turn the volume off and turn on Pat Hughes. You got about a 7-second difference.
Well, Jen, I'm not a big Joe Buck fan, but I have to say, I've thought about it in terms of what Jim is saying, and I think one of the reasons that, say, this year as a Cubs fan, you're hearing, I noticed that in the Dodgers series, I noticed that in the Indian series, the Cubs have been the favorites. So in order to sort of build up the drama, you're maybe over-exaggerating the strengths of the other team to try to balance things that maybe. And, from my perspective as a Cubs fan, it aggravates me. But if I'm looking at it from the standpoint of, say, the network and how you want to sell your broadcast, then I could cut them a little slack.
I can understand it. Yeah. From that purpose. I mean, I think back, and I was wondering if we went back to the old days, when you used to have your lead announcer from each team.
Yeah, that's true.
Mel
Allen did a lot of those. And,
but they kind of played it.
They played it down the middle, I think.
They played it down the middle.
Yeah.
They played it down the middle. Nobody got to be homers or anything on there. They played it pretty much down the middle.
And I think if you think about it, say... I think Buck gave it a a good emphasis last game when he said, the first time the Cubs have won a home World Series game since 1945. And I think to me, he appeared to be pretty excited about that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, there's times when you're thinking, Jesus, is he rooting for the Indians? Because he'll say, well, you know what, 2 more batters and, Lindor will be up or whatever.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Well,
what the heck? Whose announcer is he?
Well, you're also looking at what the situation is.
That's true.
You're looking at
true.
what the situation is. And as a reporter, you got to tell the story. You got to tell the story.
Jen, you know what, Jen? This was football, but I don't know. A few years ago, Monday Night Football had one of their big anniversaries. I don't know if it was 25 or 30, whatever.
It's over 40.
And they
now.
had a nice
45 years, I think. Now.
That makes sense because
Yeah.
they started in the 60s, I think, or early 70s.
Early 70s.
So they had a really nice article about it in the Sun-Times. And one of the things that I don't like, but I understand that it's necessary, is they had, I don't know, let's give it, I don't know what the number was, but let's say they had 10 storylines. And you can hear this come across when you hear the national announcers, because obviously, no matter how hard the national announcers try, they're not as much up on these teams as they would be if they were the home team announcers.
They come in 2 days before.
So I've heard things on, say, football broadcasts or baseball broadcasts where they'll harp on something and you'll be like, what the heck are they talking about? That's not anything that anybody in Chicago was talking about. Mm-hmm. But this is part of their storyline, and you could see that's the way it sort of has to be, because if you don't have something to say, you don't want to be in that situation when you're broadcasting to the whole nation. So it's something that I don't personally like, but I think it's something that they have to do because they have to have something to talk about, and they have to be on the same page with the other guy. It's not like Jim and I, who could do a national broadcast and never say a word to each other beforehand and just do it. You know what I'm saying?
Just like we do this.
Just like we're doing right now.
Just like we do now.
So
it's interesting too, because you get people who get on this, and there's websites out there like, well, I'll clean up the title, but it's Stupid Stuff Announcers Say, or Stupid Stuff Phil Simms Says. I know one time I was watching it was the Bears and the Bengals, and Phil Simms was doing the game. It was a CBS game, and I tweeted out, I said, can somebody tell me when Phil Simms is going to remove his lips from Andy Dalton's rear end? And within 2 seconds, I looked. That had been retweeted by Stupid Stuff Phil Simms Says.
To me, it's we sit up there, and obviously we don't do as many games as these guys do, and it's I'll tell you what, I wish that we had a storyline. Say when we get a game like we've had, the last 3 games we've done have been blowouts one way or another. Man, you need a storyline when you're getting to have a game like that, because what are you going to say about the game? And the other thing is, like the last game, the team that we lost to, hey, they did a great job. I'm not trying to down what they did. They did a fantastic job. But, Jesus, they didn't do anything that was like where you could really comment, or they just ground us down. There's not much you could say about that.
There was nothing revolutionary about what we saw on Saturday that Rochelle did. I haven't seen a wing formation, and
no, you don't see that.
And God, we even saw a double wing, I think.
Yeah. There was double wing.
Oh, you mean over here?
Yeah, I can't remember the last time I saw that.
But I mean, it's very hard to. I could see why you would have, say, 10 storylines on a national broadcast, because if you get a game that's a blowout, what the heck are you going to talk about? The game becomes uninteresting. So you need something to talk about. So I could see why they do things the way they do.
Where they look for things the way they do. And I mean, I feel sorry for pro football announcers this year, because in a lot of instances, because of all the flags, and everything else, the game has become unwatchable.
Yeah, that's true.
And when you have your announcing team for one of your premier events, one of your premier weekly events, Monday Night Football, talk about in a game, say, well, I can see why ratings are down this year because of this. You touch somebody and there's a flag. My God, the Raiders on Sunday were whistled for 26 penalties. 23 of them were accepted. It was over 200 yards. I said, "What's wrong with the game if something, if the Raiders are whistled for 23 penalties?" And Rich texted back, "What's wrong with the other team if they lost? Since they lost." Yeah, well, you've got a guy throwing for, you got a team that puts 600 yards worth of offense up there, but get penalized for 200 yards.
Yeah,
I tell you. Pat Sharf, who's
sure, Pat Sharf
was a really
agent.
fine
good
football
good
player.
Football
Ridgewood
player.
played 4 years of college football at two different universities, not 4 years for each, but two.
He went under an assumed name.
But one day I was talking to Pat, and I said, "Hey, you going to watch the Bears game or whatever this week?" And I think one of the things we're missing here about how the viewership has gone down is, Pat's remark to me is, he said, "No, I'm not going to watch it." I said, "Pat, you're a big football guy." He said, "Rich," he says, "you know what? I don't want to watch a bunch of guys who make $1 million and walk around looking like they just got out of prison." And he's referring to, a lot of tats and the long hair and the whole, And I said, "Geez, that's the way you feel about it?" He says, "Yeah." And he says, "You know what? Nobody can say I'm prejudiced because I've lived with a black woman for the last 30 years, so it's not a prejudice thing." But I would say, I think one of the things,
and I know her daughter.
I'm not saying that it's a black and white thing, but what I am saying is when you start to have people who are making big money and really probably have been pushed through the system, so to speak, because I'm sure a lot of these guys were not big time students, and it doesn't matter. I'm talking about both white and black guys. But you see these guys starting to, not stand for the national anthem. I think you're getting a little pushback.
You're getting pushback on that one. That's a big issue. Now, I look at this, and I think, when this first started, Tommy Williams posted a comment on that on Facebook. And I said, we live in a country that gives him the right to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But I also look at the fact that the initial perception of the person that did it is he's a spoiled athlete, he's making $19 million a year to play a game, and he can't even start. Is he doing it because of that? He's playing a game, and he's playing it badly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you know what? I agree with Jim. We have a free country. Everybody can express themselves. I mean, the freedom of speech is freedom of speech. But I think there is a flip side to that. And I think people are saying if guys want to do that, then we have our option. We don't have to watch that.
We don't have to watch it.
So,
and they go on for that. And you know what? I mean, I give them credit. If they feel that this is a statement they need to make, by all means, go ahead and do it. That's what this country is all about. That's what we vote for, although I'm not sure what we're voting for this year, but we're not even going to get into that one.
Yeah.
Not even going to get into that one this
Jim,
time.
Since we've drifted off baseball into football, did you watch the game last night?
I decided not to subject myself to it. and I'm laughing here because I went back and I follow, when I look at, I have teams set up that I follow on Yahoo Sports, and I get a play-by-play, and I get the stats, and it's updated throughout the course of the game. I can watch it on a little screen what's going on. But the tweets are always included in the Yahoo one. And obviously, the Daily Norseman was getting very frustrated watching this game. Seattle has no offensive line. Green Bay has no wide receivers. Carolina has no secondary. Denver has no QB. Minnesota has no O-line. Pittsburgh has no pass rush. Well, Dallas has a wild card. And there were some others that he had, and I got to see if I can go back and find him again.
Oh, did you watch the game, John? No. I'll tell you, Cutler played really well. I have to say.
But I'll ask the question that I said before. That I asked before.
What channel was it on?
It was 26, I think,
ESPN.
last night.
Oh,
if you didn't have cable, it was
no, because I was up in Wisconsin.
Oh,
and I
okay.
couldn't get it up there.
Okay. As I laughed, I was kind of looking at this. I said the Daily Norseman must have been going berserk watching this game.
Jim.
Yes. The Vikings got their butts kicked on both sides of the line tonight. Not much else to say.
Although the Vikings came in with one of the top-rated defenses in the league.
Yeah. Not sure what the point of punting here is, but hey, I guess Locke has been the best player on the team tonight.
Well, it was now here's where if you're a Minnesota fan, you're probably mad at the national commentators because they kept questioning, and I think rightfully so. The Vikings are down by 17, and the fourth quarter's starting, and they're just ho hum up to the ball. I mean And I'm thinking, they're right. I mean, obviously 17 points could be made up, but you do have to have a little more sense of urgency when you're trying to make them up in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and I mean, here's another one. Time of possession fairly even in this one. 23:07 for Chicago, 21:53 for Minnesota. It just seems that the Vikings defense has been out there all night.
Well, the Bears actually, probably one of the more impressive things is how well they were able to run against the Vikings defense. I mean, Jordan Howard with over 100 yards.
Over 100 yards. I like Jordan Howard.
And
I'm going to like it when Langford gets back and they've got a tandem.
Well, Langford did play.
Did he play?
And, here's where, Jim, prior to the broadcast, we were talking about this a little bit. But there was, as I'm pulling up to the house, I have the game on the radio. And Langford is in the game, and he, the hometown announcers make mention of the fact that he's probably the best pass blocking back we have.
Probably.
And in this particular instance, we completed a pass, and who's our color guy on radio?
Tom Thayer.
Tom Thayer. He said, well, you know what? He said, Langford did a great job there. He's not the receiver, but he picked up a blitz, made the key block, and Cutler had the time to get the pass off. And I'm thinking, okay, when you don't have Langford and Howard is running well, everybody would be like, hey, man, do we really need Langford? But when you think about today's game, and I say today's game meaning the way they play the game today, Langford may not be your featured runner anymore. But you know what? When you have a guy in the backfield who could pick the blitzing safety or blitzing linebacker up and give your quarterback time to get off a throw and complete it, that's a valuable guy to have. And when you don't have that guy, you know what? You may not even realize, as a fan, you don't realize you're missing him.
It's a valuable thing to have because he can do those things, and he's also halfway decent receiver too.
Well, he made a nice catch. In fact, there was a play last night, and I think I had this comment by Thayer in my mind, and because I usually don't zero in on particular players, but I'm watching Langford, and he circles out of the backfield, and sure enough, he was the receiver on this play, and they had a nice, 10, 12-yard gain. So, yeah, I mean, he can I think what you have to realize, the other day when the Packers played the Falcons, I watched part of that game, and they were commenting how the 36-year-old Julius Peppers, how well he was still playing. And I think back to who was the guy who went to the Cowboys as a free agent that had such a nice year, defensive tackle Henry, Can't think of his last name.
Henry Melton.
Henry Melton. And, everybody was saying, geez, Peppers isn't sacking anybody. He's not doing this. He's not doing that. But Melton's got 10.5 sacks. Well, guess what? Henry Melton has not had that type of year again because he hasn't been playing next to a guy like Julius Peppers, who probably is still taking up a double team.
Yeah.
So I guess the point, why am I bringing up Julius Peppers? Because how intricately these guys all interact with each other, how your performance is so closely related with the guy next to you's performance, or maybe not even the guy next to you. Last night, if you want to talk about a no-name, they used to have the no-name. Didn't they used to have the no-name defense? That was the Dolphins.
The Dolphins
back in the 70s.
Sure, the no-name defense.
Okay, we had a no-name defensive backfield. Yet that defensive backfield was able to cover pretty well last night. Because we had a pass rush.
That's right. Somebody tweeted about the Bears' defensive backfield last night. The Bears lead the league in defensive backs I've never heard of.
It's true.
Yeah,
it's true. But Jim, this is the thing: when your defensive front guys are putting some pressure or able to give pressure, your DBs are going to be able to cover that much. I mean, Stephon Diggs is a good receiver. They held him down basically to, he might have made a catch at the end there for a TD. I don't know if it was him or Rudolph.
They held him to, I don't know if you consider 8 catches being held, but 8 for 76 yards and did get a touchdown last night.
Okay, so he got that touchdown at the end.
Yeah. But, you tied up the running game. They only had 57 yards rushing.
Yeah. And it's, I put it this way, after seeing the Vikings last night, unless they can address their offensive line issues some way, they're not, put it this way, the Packers are going to catch him.
Yeah.
Because the Packers, even though they lost Sunday, didn't look too bad offensively. I don't know. I guess they buried Aaron Rodgers a little too quick.
Yeah.
Which is no big headline to me. But
the Daily Norseman said all week that a Mike Zimmer coach team wouldn't throw up two clunkers in a row. Holy hell, was I wrong.
Hey, listen, the other thing I wanted to mention, since John is sitting right in front of us, I saw the big buildup on TV last night because the Bulls are going to play the Knicks with Derrick Rose. And you would have thought Derrick Rose was still on the Bulls because the whole thing was Derrick Rose coming back to the United Center with the Knicks. So, John, I know you have that date circled on your calendar.
You've got that date already. You've got your TV table set up and ready to figure, for dinner that night.
It's probably today or tomorrow. It seemed like it was a game that was coming up.
Coming up soon.
Chicago Fire's on tonight, so I'll be watching that.
Oh, okay. All right.
And Jim, I know we're a little past our time, but I did want to mention that I think we had said, maybe the last broadcast or the prior one, that we thought the Bulls might be a little better than people we originally thought. And you know what? They're off to a good start. And I don't want to get into, obviously don't have time to get into the conversation, but I have to say this. I was one of the guys knocking, Dwayne Wade, Rajon Rondo, but you know what those guys do bring?
Veteran.
They may not bring the perfect player for the type of offense that we thought Hoiberg wanted to run, but I would say both of those guys love to win. And
they bring an attitude.
They bring that attitude with them.
They bring that attitude.
That's a good thing.
The other thing that we don't have time to get into today, but it'll be interesting to see how it plays out over the next few weeks, is the fact that the McCaskies have hired a consultant to evaluate their football program, their football operations, from top to bottom.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Nope.
When did you hear this?
Yesterday.
And who's this going to be?
I have no idea. It is interesting because somebody said, and I heard it on the radio, I think Bernstein said he talked to one of his sources, that the best way to liken John Fox is to Tom Thibodeau, except Thibodeau was tolerated because he was winning.
Well, I was thinking, it's funny. I'm glad you brought this up because I was thinking about John Fox this morning prior to us going on the air, and everybody uses the phrase, the next man up.
Right. Right.
The reality is that is you can't cry about guys you don't have. And last night we had more of our guys back, guys who had been injured. We finally had basically our whole linebacking core. That made a big difference. I don't know if Goldman was back last night, but our defensive line did a nice job.
Floyd is starting to.
Last night there was a play where he didn't make the sack, but he had enough pressure to make Bradford step up into the pocket, and then the middle of our defense ended up with the sack. So I would just say, you know what? I think John Fox is a good coach. I think that he's the right coach for us right now. And I think the Bears, had we not had all the injuries to key players we have, would probably, I don't say probably, I think definitely would have a better record. Everybody be happier. And I don't know. To me, I just stay the course. I think we're going to go in the right direction here.
A couple of things that were interesting. Fox, when it had to be to the point where Cutler was going to start, and Fox said, "Well, JLB, something about Fox being challenged for saying that even when Cutler recovers, it doesn't guarantee he's going to be the starter." Yeah. Well, he said that, but he denied saying that.
Oh, okay.
He denied saying that to the press, which is everybody kind of went, And Cutler's reaction to Fox, especially when Cutler was like being kept away from practice during that time when Hoyer was there, was Cutler's reaction was starting. Well, she says, "Well, I guess he's stuck with me now."
Yeah, well,
there's things are not well.
No, I don't believe that. I don't think Fox is that stupid. And you know what? Last night they actually said on the broadcast that they questioned Cutler about that, and he said no. He says prior to all of this happening, he says they told me that when I was well, I was the starting quarterback. Now this was nothing that was in the papers, but this is from what Cutler told the national broadcasters. And you know what? The reality is, whatever John put it this way. If I was John Fox and Brian Hoyer was doing a nice job of filling in, and they come to you with this question, what are you going to throw Hoyer under the bus?
No,
say,
no
matter. Hey, we're gonna. No, you know what? You need this guy to keep playing
you
for
need
you.
You need to keep him
playing.
playing.
So, in other words, you're going to say, well, you know what? Make that decision when the time comes.
Right, and that's exactly what you needed to do.
Yeah.
This was not like Jimmy Clausen or anything else. All right, that's enough. We managed to kill 68 minutes.
68 minutes.
Wow. And John stayed awake, too.
We could go even longer.
No, I'm drinking coffee. I have to go to the bathroom.
Oh, look out.
Okay.
Jeez. Yeah.
All right. Time for us to get out of here. It's Tuesday night. We're hoping for good things on Game 6. We're hoping when this show is run tomorrow, we'll be thinking about Game 7.
Mm-hmm. Amen.
And then in a couple of weeks, we'll get together again. Show will run on the 16th, right? Show will run on the 16th. Yeah. So we'll get together on the 15th, and we'll have World Series to wrap up. We'll have, the Bears are off Sunday. We'll have a Bear game to talk about.
Yeah.
And we'll see if the Bulls have lost a game by then. And I know John will have plenty of things that he say because how much he enjoys watching Derrick Rose play.
Yes, that's right.
John is staring.
We're going to get the whole Derrick Rose update.
John is staring at me.
Look at that. Yeah, you ever see John? John never looks mean. He's staring daggers at you.
I'm looking at this and thinking. Yesterday, I looked out the back window in my neighbor's yard, and their dog was out, and there's a cat in the neighborhood that happened to come into the yard, and the dog went over to try to
mess with the cat.
make friends with the cat. And the cat
Yeah.
hissed at him.
Yeah.
and the cat gave him, took 2 swipes at him, and the dog just kind of backed away and sat there for a second looking at him with sort of the look that John just gave me, and dog kind of walked away with sort of, I can dig where you're coming from.
Yeah, there you go. But you know what, Jim? I was thinking as I'm looking at John looking at you, I'm thinking if we could find out what was going through John's head, he might have to do the speed dial to the priest for himself.
Yeah, I want the number, John. All right, let's get out of here. Thanks for listening. We had fun. Hope you did too. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Till that time, we are Taillights.
You have been listening to Armchair Experts from the John DeVito Broadcast Center on Wednesday, November the 2nd on Jack FM 89.7, WRHS FM Norwich, and the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro. This broadcast was directed by John DeVita. Our special thanks to Kevin Zeflik of WRHS FM Norwich and the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network, Mr. John Shikanda. This program was pre-recorded on Tuesday, November the 1st, the year 2016. Until next time, friends, please be safe and thanks for listening. And this is Jack FM 89.7 WRHS FM, Norwich, Illinois. Have a nice day, everyone.